Hey everyone, Justin Byers of JB Byers Woodworking, and back in the shop doing a cherry on cherry box. So here's the burl. I've actually went in and filled the voids and everything with blue colored pigment epoxy, but this is actually going to be a lid. Really excited about this one. This is going to be my mold that I'm going to make for the lid. This box is actually going to have 2 drawers in it, and this is a rather large box. This box is 13.5 by 18.5 by 8.5 tall. So this is a really large box, and I kind of did it unconventionally, maybe. I'll show you later on, but here I am gluing up my mold. I've thought about buying some, but you get certain sizes, and everything that I do is kind of custom and one-off stuff, and the size really varies. So I normally just make my molds and then glue the pieces on, caulk around there. Then I come back in with just regular clear packing tape, and you'll see later on, I have no trouble getting this out. When I cut the ends off, the back normally pops off really easily. So that's what I'm doing here, putting packing tape in to get ready to start pouring epoxy. And this is a really, the cherry that I have got, that I selected, has got some really nice figure in it. It's got a little bit of some ghost flame curl going on. Here it is. This has really got some really cool character in it. So for this box, I decided that this piece really would work best for it. And the way that I've seen several boxes that have drawers in the bottom where they cut the ends off straight, the end grain is exposed. Well, I'm going to be doing miter corners on this one so that the grain is continuous all the way around the box. Is a little bit more extra work. Like I said, I've never made one. I've been wanting to. Opportunity came up. Client ordered this, and I was able to make this box. And here I am cutting my miters on everything. And actually, the way that I did this one was on the side pieces. It's actually the front piece where my miters are. I'll show you after I get everything dry fitted, but these front pieces here, I actually cut those off. I still have to cut this down a little bit to get it to the height that I need it. And there's a lot of math that I wasn't planning to add into all this, but when you do something new, you're always, coming up with something. But this will give you an idea of actually how it's going to look. This is the lid. This is how it's going to be. It's going to be for case knives, cutleries, however you say it. So I'm going to put one here, one on this corner here. I'm going to epoxy those in the lid here. And I wanted to do a raised panel lid on this one like I've done some of the other ones, but I decided to mount this one down flush into it. But like I said, the way I did this box is really, I probably did myself a lot more work than I needed to do, but in the end, I was happy with how it came out. So here it is. I've got my first layer poured in the mold. Let that set up, and then I'll come back and put my knives in. So I went ahead and cut my dados to accept the top panel for the top part of the box. And you can see right here, these corners, I'm going to cut these off, and I can glue these, I can reattach them to the sides. That way that grain pattern will continue all the way around the front side of it as well. It ended up, I wish I'd have got a little closer, but in the end, it still come out, fairly decent. Still looks really good. Happy with how this box turned out for the most part. Like all of us, we're all our worst critics and point out all of our flaws and stuff. But I know that I've had a few comments on some people, asking me about doing things a certain way or whatever, but the best advice I could give, I really hate to use the time up to use it on here, but try to do it. Just whatever you've got in your head. If it's something you're not sure about, if you make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. So here's that corner that I was talking about. You'll see how that matches up, lines up a lot better. I didn't want the end grain exposed on this box. I know I've seen where they just cut the sides off flat, but I wanted to continue that grain all the way around. And that's why I cut my rabbits, my dados, for the lid or for the inside of the bottom panel for the top here. And then I come back and cut that 45 corner off and attached it to the front there. So here's the process of how it was. I just taped them on. And here I have everything dry fitted. Just kind of give you an idea what the box is going to look like. I've got the knives in here. I'll show this process a little later on. I've got them sitting in here so you kind of get an idea of how they're going to go. I use this deep pour epoxy from the epoxy resin store. It's really good epoxy. I haven't had any troubles out of it. Really enjoy working with it. It's slow curing, but it cures really hard. So here I am mixing it up and getting ready to pour. And I don't know if anybody messes with epoxy much. You got your upside and your downsides to using it. I know some people kind of get intimidated with it. I was at first, just like everybody else that, tried it for their very first time. After you work with it for a while, you kind of get, used to how it reacts, to where you add more hardener to the resin and stuff, and you kind of get this process sped up a little faster. But I like, if you're using something and you're kind of in a hurry, I recommend using a 1-to-1, but be sure not to pour it, really thick. You want to keep your pores 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch thick, no more than a half. And if you're using, 2-to-1s or 3-to-1s, those pores you can generally go, between an inch or two. Some of your, a lot of your 3-to-1s, some of them you can go up to, I think, 3, even 4 inches on them. I think you can do this one up to 4 inches with this one. I've never done. I think the thickest I ever done was like 2 3/4 or something like that. But yeah, this is the waiting process on this, just waiting on everything to cure. And the way that I take these out of the mold, you see these marks I've got on the sides there, so that's where I need to cut. So I had this one pretty close to the money where I needed to get it poured and stuff and get it ripped off on the table saw, and that's how I do it. On all my molds, once they're cured, bring them over the table saw, and then I will cut the outside edges all the way off where I need them to. Here I am cutting them off, and you'll see the packing tape. The reason that I put that down is so that it releases, and I don't use any release agents at all. I've not had any trouble. I've used several different epoxies, and I've never had any trouble with them coming out of the molds after I cut the sides off, flip it over, and just kind of get underneath that bottom panel. They pop off, pretty easy. And I've only had one, I can't remember which epoxy it was, but I only had one that actually chipped on me, cutting it off of the table saw. But for the most part, all of them have been, relatively smooth process. I haven't had any trouble. So here I am. I went and got a little scraping tool, putty knife or whatever. Just kind of get underneath that, and it comes right off. Peel a little bit of tape off, and I'm gonna set my router sled that I got from Brent Jarvis. I'll try to leave a link in the bottom here. But this is a game changer. If you do not have one of these and you're looking to get one, I highly recommend getting this one. The thing's all thought out. You just set your rails up, put your router in it, you drill your holes for your router in the plate, and you plug this thing up and you just get at it. And it's a really good, setup, simple to use, deadly accurate. This is how I flatten all my unique stuff. You don't, with curly or quilted anything, you don't have any tear out with this thing. This is an awesome setup. I'm going to be ordering me some extension rails so that I can do 10-foot long pieces later on. And here I've got this part right here flattened down. And once you get the bottom flattened, you just take it out of your clamps or whatever you use to hold it down, flip it over. And here I'm actually taking 1/4 inch deep passes off on this at one time. So, but once you get the bottom flat, you flip this thing over and finish the top. It's flat, it's true. There's no wobble in your piece at all. This is a deadly accurate piece of machinery here. Brent really, he got the process down. I know a lot of times, everybody says, oh, you see them on Amazon, you can order these rails, etc. But Brent has already got the kits together. You don't have to do any math, any figuring. And for the price, you're not paying him that much more. And it's supporting another maker. So here I am filling in these holes. Some of the air bubbles that come up with the blue colored epoxy, that when I flattened this out, had some air trapped in there. So I'm just going back in, touching up some of these places so I can sand it back down. Here it is. I got my dado run for the lid. I've got it dropped in. I like how everything looks. Next process, I've got this thing glued up now. This is the box. I've got it glued together now. And after everything's glued up, I'll start working on the drawers for this. And I have some, I don't remember if it was, I think it's sycamore. So this is the front panels. The box is like 3/4, a little over 3/4 thick. I actually cut these down, and I cut some strips for all my dividers because it's going to be a display box for knives. This is going to be my sides and my back for my boxes, for my drawers. And I got some extra pieces if I need to cut those. But this cherry's got some real nice figure on this other piece here. It's got some really nice figure, and I think that sycamore will accent really nicely against this cherry when I cut my rabbet to accept the drawer boxes, cut all my dados. I said this was a really lengthy process. I've been wanting to make a box with drawers, but this is my first one, so it was all new territory, trying to figure out how things move and placement and how I wanted everything to kind of line up. That's what I'm saying. If you want to experiment and explore, just do it. You're not going to be, if you mess up, you just start over. There's no wrong way or right way to go about doing something. It's all trial and error. Here I have some walnut strips cut. This is going to be my slides. And the reason I left these little corners proud, an 1/8 or a 32nd, was to catch that little bit of lip to hold those into place. So I'm going to run the dado and cut this section out to accept those slides right there. And I got it close when I was working with this, and I got some small little hand planes that I smoothed these slides and stuff out with, but I thought, I didn't film it, but I thought I was going to be in a little bit of trouble, and I put just a dab of wax on my finger and rubbed it into these joints, and these boxes really slid really nicely after I got them waxed up a little bit. So if you're making drawers, wooden slides and stuff, and I recommend putting some wax on there after you get them finished up, and should be good to go. And I just stacked some playing cards. This is a trick I've seen people do before. And here I have my boxes. I got my first one glued together here. I've got the other one. I'm fixing to start gluing it together. I thought I'd show you how I've got my rabbits and dados and stuff cut for the drawer bottom, and how everything kind of goes together and accepts into one side versus the other, kind of help on strength as well. Here's the lid. I've got it sanded down, and I'll be doing some engraving in the top of this, actually, with the case logo inside that. And here I have the other box, drawer bottom, glued up. And I don't remember if I didn't intend for this box to be this big, but I was already, cut it to where I thought, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and make it really big. And here I have my cards placed for my spacing, and I've just got them taped on there. I think I've got 3 cards on each one, maybe 4. I think I just got 3 playing cards, and this just kind of keeps everything uniformed. And the reason I did that was when I slid the drawers in, my spacers, I have those in, and then that way it keeps everything level until the glue dries on my slide. So once those dried, I slid my boxes out, and they were, where they needed to be. Everything lines up good. Everything closes good. So really happy with that process. And like I said, I'm learning as I go. And here's the final. I still kind of get nervous on this part as well, cutting the lids off these boxes, because if, you turn the wrong way and it goes and catches and slings the lid off, you got basically start all over. So this part is kind of nerve-wracking when you get so far into a project. One little mistake could kind of send it flying, but so far I've not had any bad luck, with anything happening, getting these lids cut off. My last project, I did 9 boxes, so I had a little bit of practice. So here's the case logo with the writing in it, and I'm gonna be doing it. I originally was gonna be doing it in red and white and black lettering, like the case logo. After I sanded it down to go back to do the white, I actually ended up liking how it turned out, and I asked the client if we could just leave it as is, and they were happy with it. Here's a kind of untraditional way of mounting these hinges. This is a normal barrel hinge, but I mounted them backwards, and I routed out a groove to accept the barrel to where they're flat on the backside. And if you take I'll show later on, if you take a hinge and open it, somewhat backwards, it only goes so far. So the reason I mounted these is because this is a pretty heavy lid. I didn't want to use these small jewelry box lid hinges, so I used these beefier ones, and I just mounted them this way. That way they would act as to hold the lid up. Basically was what I came up with. I tried to find something, but I just ended up using a regular hinge. This Watco teak oil, this is the oil finish I use on everything that's hardwood that I apply finish on. Wipe it on, polish, rub it in, wipe it off. It's really enhances the grain, the color to it. It's got a little yellow tint to it. And here's all the dividers in. I think this thing will hold 51 knives altogether. There's 51 knives, and it's a really big box. You don't realize how big it is until you get it finished, But here's the logo, the way that the burl and stuff that's in the case and the outside rim there. I just really liked how that looked. We left it like this. And here I am epoxying the lid in. And the reason that I done this was because I left a little small, space between the burl and the lid, a lip. That way it kind of looks like it's floating in there by itself, was the look I was going for. And it turned out good. There's still some minor details that I wish would have turned out a little differently. These drawers come all the way out, and there's 3 more sections across the back. But yeah, that was a lot of cuts and stuff, making all these dividers as well. I'm trying to think if I skipped anything other than the felt bottom I used. Put that in first, and then I put the dividers back in. And here I am putting the last screw in for the lid. I just got it back, so I had a buddy of mine clear it, and there was some small flaws on the burl where it's kind of got some divots and stuff, but all in all, this box, which you can kind of see how good size box this is, and it's a really cool looking box. I think I'll put some knives that I had in here just to show it, but it's I'm trying to think if I caught this. I may not have, but I meant to show that the figure, right here, the figure on this cherry, and then the figure on that sycamore, I think really ties that piece together good. And it's all having fun, trying new things, experimenting. I'm gonna set this over on table saw, get some better lighting, and showcase it. If you found this interesting, other than my obnoxious voice from my allergies, if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button and notification bell so that you'll get notified next time I do something. I'm hoping before too long I can do some more shop projects. I've got a clamp storage rack cabinet that I'm wanting to do to match my tool cabinet. And I want to do an outfeed table, and I want to do a dedicated table to my router sled. And I want to do a traditional carpenter's bench as well. So those are some of the shop projects that I have lined up. Hopefully I can get to this year and get those made. But yeah, here's the box, the final piece. Here's the hinge. I'll show you this right here. So the hinge is mounted backwards, and when it's opened, it only opens this far, just a little past 91.5 degrees or something like that. But with this lid being as heavy as it is, if you opened it or mounted them this way, when you open the box, it would just open all the way up. But if you mount it to where it opens this way, it actually holds the lid up really nicely. I'm happy with how that came out. That way I didn't have to add any type of brackets or chains or anything to hold the lid up. Like I said, this really is a heavy lid. It started out, I think, at 3/4 or 7/8. After I flattened it, I got everything down to like 5/8 thick, so it's still a pretty thick lid. So, but I hope you enjoyed this video. Be kind to everybody. I appreciate everybody's support. Keep making.